Hello, this is Maryanne Dersch with Courageous Communication. Welcome to part 3 of my 3-part series on fundraising and money mindset. So how our brain works and how that affects our ability to fundraise. In the first part, we learned about how our brain works, how we get money stories from our parents, and how those money stories influence our ability to raise money. The second part, we talked about how to release those negative mindsets so that we can create more better outcomes for ourselves. And now the third part is to how to help others do that, because you're probably an amazing fundraiser. I bet you are an awesome fundraiser. And yet the success of your position is determined by how well others around you raise money. Say you are leading a capital campaign, or you're a head of development, or you're a board president or an executive director, and you need other people around you to raise their game. So if you're comfortable, that's great. They might not be that comfortable. So what can we do to help other people without seeming self-righteous or super bossy? So there's 3 steps to this. And the first step is that when someone raises an objection to not being able to raise money, or tells a money story that you hear, like, wow, that's a lot of money. Would they really give that much money? Or I don't know if I could ask for that much money. Or maybe we should go in small and then ask for big. Or I don't want to ask so big and they're going to turn me away. There's a lot of money stories flying around. And when you hear them, the first thing you want to say is, thank you. Thank you, because instead of objecting to our money stories that you hear, this is our opportunity as a leader to be called to higher mastery. This is our opportunity to really listen and hear people's concerns so that we can address them. Because for the people who are speaking up, there's so many people who aren't saying anything. Those people who are speaking up, they want to do better. They understand that there's something wrong, something missing, something they could do better. They want to serve your organization to the highest level possible. And they're raising this objection or concern because they know in the position they are right now, they can't. So that is such a glorious thing. So when someone says, I don't know if I can do this, or I'm scared, or that doesn't seem right, you say, the first thing we're going to do is say thank you, because then that allows us to then navigate through that objection. The second thing we're going to say is a tip or technique that I use a lot, and you use this a lot when people raise a concern, or when they're stating something with them, like, I feel really sad, or I'm afraid, and you can say, so what makes you say that? So what makes you say that? That is an excellent phrase that you can use when someone brings up something. And instead of saying, like, if I would say to you, man, I feel so sad, and you would say, don't be sad, that completely negates that first statement that I made. And now feel this, I feel so sad. And then you would say to me, so what makes you sad? This is opening up a conversation where now you're asking me. And also, here's something, is that if somebody says something and you don't know exactly how to respond, you can just say, so what makes you say that? I do this with my kids all the time. Or what makes you ask that? Like, Mom, what's sex? What makes you ask that, right? So if you always don't know how to answer a question or what to say next, you can buy a little time. And really, sometimes some people just want to be heard. We forget that people always don't expect an answer or a fix it from us. They just want some advice. So what makes you say that? And then we're going to hear that person's concern and hear where that's going. And 3, this is how we're going to help them. And it's a technique, and I use this technique in my workshop. It's a technique for giving and receiving feedback. And we use some phrases, not you should, or you would, or you need to. It's this phrase, which is, in my experience, or if I were you. I was on the phone with someone today who mentors me, and I get a lot of advice from him. And he said the same thing to me. If I were you, or in my experience. And for me, that allows me to receive that input instead of saying, this is what you need to do. Because when someone tells us what to do, what's the first thing we do? Like, we get defensive, and we put that, well, you can't tell me what to do. So all we're saying is, in my experience. So let's go back to fundraising. In my experience, here's what helped me. You're just speaking from your own experience. The second 2 phrases you can say are, I invite you to consider or you may want to consider. When you use that word consider, it's so powerful. I invite you to consider, or you may consider. So I invite you to consider trying this, or looking at this, or reading this, or watching this video, or whatever, right? You're just inviting them to consider something, right? And that's the only request. And again, that allows the receiver to relax, because you're not telling them what to do. You're just asking them to consider something. The other thing you can do, the third thing you can do, is when someone shares a money story, is you can ask them if they're open to a conversation around talking about it more. And I want you to use the words open to a conversation. Are you open to a conversation about talking about this more, so we can really get into this? Because I want you to function as effectively as possible, and I know you do too, right? So I'm asking, are you open to a conversation to explore it? So you can even use those three all together. In my experience, this is what I did. You might consider doing that too. Would you be open to a conversation where we could talk about this in a little more detail? And they're probably going to say yes, because you have set the stage for them to feel very secure in opening up to you. And also that you two are going to work on a solution together. Again, when you tell people what to do, it shuts it down. When you invite them to consider or learn from you and your experience, you're going to get a lot farther. So that's the three things that you need to do. Remember, we're going to say thank you when you hear that objection, because that's our call to greater leadership mastery. Then we're going to ask them, so what makes you say that? And then we're going to lovingly give some feedback with the words, in my experience, I invite you to consider, and open to a conversation. And these are words when I use my workshop, my Courageous Academy workshops, and when I work with clients, this is what I teach them, to how to communicate more effectively and give and receive feedback, so that both the receiver and the recipient, or the giver and the receiver of the feedback, do it in a way that's helpful and moves the conversation and moves the productivity forward. So that is it for step 3 of my Money Mindset series in fundraising. Thank you so much for joining me, and look forward to many, many, many more videos around how to be a more effective communicator to raise the visibility of your brand, so you can raise more money. Until then, be courageous.